Even before we continue, please, is there any issue based on what we have covered so far? Is there any issue before we continue, before we go into data structures today? Okay, silence means there's no issue. Okay, so today we're going to data structures, and based on the small code snippet that we just had, or on the exercise rules, this exercise that we just corrected, you see that we already started making use of data structures, and if we discover, it saved us a lot of stress, because previously what we have been doing is this: when we need a variable, we always go and create a variable. Let's say we create a variable to hold the first month, which is January. We create another variable to hold the second month, which is February, and you discover that was stressful. So now that we are making use of the default data structures that Python has kept in place, of the, let's say, the primitive data structures. So today we have to dive into the other data structure that Python has. Like when we started the course, we made mention that we're going to study that later on in the course, and we said there were four data structures that we're going to study: the list, the tuple, the dictionary, and the set. So today we're going to go into the list data structure. And when you have a good mastery of the list data structure, then now it becomes good, because you easily understand the other data structures like arrays in other languages. So the slide says list is one of the built-in data types in Python. The list is a sequence of comma separated items enclosed in a square bracket. The items in a Python list need not be of the same data type, unlike arrays in C, C++, or Java. Think of a list as same as arrays in C, C++, or Java. But now here, before we continue, here, let me see. Let me get a highlighter here. So here, we list, when they say comma separated variables, comma separated items, you see that here, this is an example of a list. This is an example of a list. Okay, let me see. Okay, works now. This is an example of a list. So these items are enclosed inside a square bracket, and they are comma separated. So here, for example, like I was saying, based on what we have done with the basic data structures that we have, like the integer, the float, and the other, and the strings. So we discovered that if I was supposed to create a variable to hold 1, 2, 3, all of these numbers that are inside this list, we discovered that we have to create this in 5 separate variables to hold all of this. We discovered that we have to create a variable that has to hold this first number, create another variable that has to hold the second number, and so on. So now the advantage that the list data structure gives us is this: it gives us a container that can have one name, and then when the container has a single name, now you can store multiple values inside that container. Let me just have a small sketch of it. So here, for instance, this is a container that I'll have. So now this container, now let's just call this container numbers. Let's say the number represents this container that I'll have here. So now with this container, now you see that this container is subdivided into smaller containers, and with these subdivided smaller containers, we have the opportunity now to store values inside these subdivided containers. So now here we just have a name, because now the issue, now we have multiple variables now. We come into place when you start looking for variable names to assign to all of this. You discover that now you have to start thinking of assigning several variable names, which is somehow stressful to figure that out. So now here, when you have now a container which is named numbers that represents all of this, so now it subdivide this into smaller containers so you can actually store all the numbers that you want inside. And now when we have this, you discover that now it actually makes management of these numbers quite easy since we have all of it inside a single block. Managing it now it becomes very easy. So a list is an order collection of items. Each item in a list has a unique position index starting from 0 right up to the length of the list. So now computers they count from 0 right up to this thing. Computers they start counting from 0, unlike us human beings that we count from 1. Computers they count from 0. So now, like I said, think of list like arrays in C, C++, and Java. So with arrays, there's 0 index. And when we say they are 0 index, it means this. With something being 0 index, it means it starts counting from 0. Let me just draw that container that we had earlier on and then try to explain that detail. So we have something like this. So we have this bigger container that's been subdivided into separate containers. So now here, when we say this 0 index, you discover that when we have items inside, let's say 1, 2, 3, and 4, we have these items inside this list, inside this container. You discover that now we need to know how we can be able to access these values that we have inside these sub containers inside this bigger container. So now with list to have access to these items, you have to, let's say you have to access 3 for instance, you have to know the index of where 3 is being stored inside this array. So to be able to do this, what we have to do is this: we have to use the indexing and we have to understand the way indexes work, especially with list, because it's very important. So now with indexes, like I said, they are 0 index. It means they start counting from 0, 0, 1, 2, right up to the length of the list. So the length of this list is 3. So you start counting from 0 right up to the end of this list. So now we discover that element 1, this element 1 is stored at index position 0. Then element 2, this element 2 is stored at index position 1, 3 at index position 2, and 4 at index position 3. So for you to be able to access these elements, you need to pass in this variable name and in square brackets pass in the index of where the element is stored for you to be able to access the element. Like here it says to access to have access to the values of a list, we need to specify the index where the element is located in the list. These are the indexes here. And then now you pass in the variable name, which is numbers. Inside square bracket, you pass in that index. And when you pass in the index, the output will be 1 because the element that is stored at index position and index position 0 is 1. And passing in 1 in the square bracket will display 2 because the element stored at index position 2 is 1 and index position 1 sorry is 2. So now here, if an index is passed that is not that is above the size of the list, then an error will be raised because that index is not going to be found. So before we continue, please, if there's something that you're not understanding, please just ask now so that it can be explained before we continue. Like this is the basic working principle of the list. So please, if there's any issues, just indicate so that we can address before we continue. If you haven't understood something, just ask. So is it fine? Is everything understood? If it is, then please just indicate so that we can continue. Okay. So I think let's go to VS Code and have an understanding of this first before we continue, so that we'll all be on the same page. So let me present VS Code. So let me just copy this program after commenting to this. So we have this. Let's say numbers is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is our list. Like I said, the values that are stored inside a square bracket and they are comma separated. It means when you have one value, for Python to recognize that the second that value ends there, you have to separate it by a comma. So when you have a first value, you have to separate it. You have to differentiate it from the second value by passing in a comma. You should take note of this. And that's one issue that Rose Code had, because she enclosed all of what she had as a string. So that was being recognized as a single value instead of multiple values that she actually passed in. So now here, this is us creating a list here. And then now for us to be able to print out that, we have to pass in that list, the variable name, and then the index. So we will pass in index position 0 and we run the code. Let's run that. Now we execute the code so that we'll have 1 here on the console. After executing, we'll have 1 here on the console. So to have have access to the second element, you just have to pass in that index, which is 1. Then when you run, you have 2. Remember that list that 0 indexed. So now if we have to get access to this element 6, which index should we pass? Someone should answer. You want to display element 6, what index? You can raise your hand and talk. Okay. Okay, alright.
Index number 5.
Okay, index number 5. Yeah, that's the same thing that Jenny said. So if we pass in index number 5, we're going to get access to the last element. Let's run that out and see. Yeah, it gives us 6. So is there any other issue? Okay, let's convert this. Let's work with this thing. Yes, Rose, is there any issue?
Yes, sir. Please, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you have to pass in one index at a time? Is it possible to pass in all the indexes?
No, you can only pass in single index at a time. But now, one nice thing that Python gives is that we can just print out the entire list. Like you just have numbers here and we execute this, it's going to print out the entire list for us. So if you don't want to actually pass in the numbers at a particular time, or like type in position in the numbers and then you pass in the index, you can actually use a for loop. You can use a for loop to actually print out all the values in that. Let's say for number in numbers. When you do this, you can just print number. Then if we execute this, it's going to print out all the numbers here, one from 1 to 6. But you discover that at a particular time we're actually passing in an index. But let's say if we get to for loops, let's just say we have I is equals to 0 here. Then now this thing, let's just say for numbers in numbers, let's have this as numbers, then we'll print out I here, pass in I there, and then when we're doing that, we increment I equals to 1. Let's have this here and see. It gives us the same result. You discover here during the first iteration I is 0, then after that increments I by 1 from what we did in the previous class on loops. So we do something similar to this a couple number of times. So that's what we're going to have. So we're still going to get into this. So when I'm going into this, I'll explain that better. But you see that here at each interval we're passing in the index. Hope that answers your question, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's work with strings because sometimes working with numeric values is easy since we are not enclosing them in any curly brackets. So let's have a list that stores in this. Let's say Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. Let's have this. Then now here to print that out, you just pass in your days to print out the entire list. Then you have this down here. You just pass in the name of that variable, the name of the list, without putting the square bracket or without passing any index. You're going to have that. You're going to have that printed out, and then printing the first. Let's say you want to print Tuesday. Tuesday now. We'll be at index position 1. So we run this code. We'll have Tuesday here being displayed on the console. So they are comma separated. You have one variable, and when you're done, you have a comma and then go to the next variable. So before we continue to the next slide, is there any issue? Okay, there is none. So now here, back to our slide. Let's see. So now updating the values of a list. So now updating the value of a list is the same as updating variables. Because you discover that with variables now, all you needed was just to access that variable. When you access that variable, you just assign a different value to it by using our assignment operator, which is this equal to sign here. So now it's the same with list. Let's say we want to update the element stored at index position 2. The element that stored at index position 2 is this. So let's say we want to count from 1 to 5, but now we made a mistake and passed into and want to update that. So for us to be able to update that, we just need to have access to that element that is stored at that particular index, and then we just assign a new value to it, which is 3. So when we do this, remember we're having that list numbers, which is the name of our list. Then now we're passing in that index, which is index position 2. Remember this index position 0, 1, then index position 2. So at index position 2, we're overwriting that memory content, the value that is found there with 3. So if we run this program now, we're going to have this is the initial values here. So we have 1, 2, 2, 4, 5. After updating that, we have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's updating this thing, the values of a list. So please, as we're going ahead, if there's any issue, if I explain the concept and you're not too clear, make sure to raise your hand so that I can always see and get back to you. So now, after updating let's see now how we can actually delete values of a list. So now to remove a list element, to remove an element in the list, you can do so by using the del function. So this is an inbuilt function already in Python that you just need to call, and then you pass in that memory location and that content, and then that content is being deleted. So when you use the del method, the exact location, you pass in the location of that list. So here we have now this stuff here. We have that our initial list here. So one, since 2 is being duplicated, we want to actually delete it. So now here, what we need to do is we just need to write this this thing, this not even a functional method. That's not, okay, so we just need to write this del keyword. Then now we call now, we have now access now to that index position, which is by calling the name of that list, which is numbers. Then we're passing now the index. When we pass in this index now, it's going to delete now this memory content. Is going to delete index position 2 and the values that are stored there. So it is called that after here, this is the output of that program when we interpret and run. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After deleting the element at index position 2, we now have 1, 2, 4, 5. So that's how we now get. Now you see now that, remember I said earlier that when you use this del keyword, when you use this keyword, this del keyword, and you pass in any memory location, Python goes in and it deletes that memory location. So if we use del numbers, it's going to actually delete the entire list for us. So let's take note and see how we use this function. So depending on how you use it, you either delete an index or you actually delete the entire list. So from there now, let's check now list operations. So now with list operations, now we have now this, we can actually concatenate two lists together, concatenation, which is adding one list to another list. Like here, this is a separate list, this list is different from this one. When we use this concatenation, remember when we're dealing with strings, we made mention of concatenation. So when you use this plus here, it's going to actually concatenate. It's going to take the elements of this list and it's going to add it to the elements of the previous list. That's why when we run this code, we're going to have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now remember to this method here that's similar to what we had in strings. Remember that in strings we said you can actually have this, you can actually write a string and you multiply it by an integer value, and it's going to duplicate that string based on the number they have passed in. So here we have a list that has just high in it as a value. If you multiply it by 4, you see that this element is being duplicated 4 times. 4 times, this is the repetition, and that is similar to this thing, to strings as we saw them. Many of these methods they are just going to we're just going to be interchanging them, and they are going to be same in different data structures. So when you have a good mastery of one in a particular data structure, you see that when you go to the next data structure, it's going to change. Either it's the same or it's going to change slightly, but it's not going to change that much. So now here, after this, uh, let me get my highlighter. So now you see that list slicing, which is similar to what we also did too in strings. You discover that, like we always do, we just cover all of these methods, and then after now we'll go to VS Code and we'll try to implement. So now let's say we have this list that has spam, spam, spam. So now you see that if we come and pass in this thing position 2, like we said, this is position 2 here. You're going to bring out this spam here. Then now negative indexing. So now with this negative indexing now, you will start counting now from the end of the list. Like now for from that example that asks that how can we print the last element that was stored in that list. If I don't actually know the all the indexes of that list, you can just pass in -1 as the index. It's going to print out the last element that is stored in that list. You discover that here the one will pass in -2 as the index. It actually returns this spam here. This spam here. So now when you are starting from the listing from the start of the list, indexing starts counting from 0. But if you want to start indexing from the end of the list, you start from -1. That's why this here, this other spam here is at -2. Then with this method now, same as we had in strings, you discover that when we pass in this, when we have else, we have one, and then this, you don't pass in any value. You remember that now here, this one indicates the starting of the list where it should start printing from. Then now when you have this, when you say it start printing from index position 1, you start printing from here. Then now when you don't pass in any other value here, if you just have this column here and you don't pass in any value here, it means that you should print right to the end of the list. So now you see that if we execute this, it's going to give us spam and then spam, which starts printing from here right up to the end of the list, which is here. If we're supposed to have other values inside this list, it's going to print right up to the last value. So it's the same. You can use negative indexing too, and that's going to work. You start printing from the last value to the start of the list. So if you started from -1, we did not pass any value here. I'm going to start printing from spam, spam, and then now this other spam here. So now, yeah, let's cover this other methods, and then now we'll go to VS Code and we practice. So now you see now there are other methods that the list can do. So now you're seeing the append method. So what this append method will do is this: it's just going to take that value that you have passed in and it's going to add it at the end of the list. So the append method is going to add that value at the end of the list, and then the append will add that value at the end of the list. Then the append and the pop, they are similar, but they work oppositely. So the append is going to add a value at the end of the list. Let's say we have this list like this here. 1, 3, Jesus, this 3. 1, 3, and let's say 2 here. So if we pass in append and we pass in 4 here, it's going to take 4 and it's going to add 4 at the end of this list here. That's what the append method is going to do. Add 4 at the end of the list. So now for the pop, what the pop will do is this: if you say pop, you just say pop list dot pop, it's going to remove this 4 here. It's going to remove this 4 from this list. Then now the clear is going to clear the entire content of the list. So we use list.clear is going to remove all of these items here. So if we execute this list will become empty. Then this.copy, this is going to return an object of this list. So you say list.copy is going to actually copy all of this list. When you copy this list now, you can actually assign that to another variable, which will eventually convert that to a list. Someone says she cannot hear me. Please, are you getting me now? Please, if you are, just
Yeah,
indicate.
we can get 0. Maybe it's an error.
Okay, now, please, are you getting me now? If you are getting me, just indicate with the thumbs up. Okay, okay, that's good. Then, so now list dot count. So now when you're using this dot count now here, it actually returns how many times an object occurs in that list. Let's say we had a list here now. 1, 1, 2. if we do list dot count and we pass in one here, it's going to count the number of times that one is in this list. And if we execute that, you see that one is two times. One appears in this list twice. So this value that's going to return is going to be two. The value is going to be two here. Then list dot extends, now it appends the content of the second list to the previous list. So let's say we had this list here and we have this other list. Let's say this list is list one. Then let's say we have this here one, five, and this is list two. But using this extend here, let's say list one dot extend, and then we'll pass in list two. It's going to take this list two and it's going to add it. It's going to add this content to this list one here, which is similar to that concatenation that we saw in the previous slide. Then the index here, what this will do is it's just going to return the index of an object. So let's say if we'll have in one here and we'll pass list dot index, we'll pass in that object one, it's going to return here. If we're dealing with this list here, it's going to return the first occurrence of one. So it's going to return zero here as the index of one. Then list dot insert. So now you discover that with the append method, what the append method will do is it's going to add that element at the end of the list. Now the insert method now here will give you now the option to choose where you want to add that element. So now with the insert method, you can decide to add it at the beginning of the list, meaning that the index will be zero. Then now you pass in that value. So it's going to take that value and you add it at the beginning here. So let's say we passed in 2. So it'll be different. So it's going to add 2 to the beginning of the list. But with the append method is going to add that value at the end of the list. So now with the pop will just remove the element, removes and returns last object on the object from the list. So just remove that element that's stored at the end of the list. Then remove now. This removes object. It also removes now an element. Now we discover that now here with a pop, it removes the last element. Now with the remove method here, you pass in that value that you want to remove. Let's say you want to remove 3 from here. You pass in list dot remove 3. It's going to remove 3 from that list. Then reverse is just going to reverse object of the list in place. So we will have this 1 2 1 3 1 no 1 3 2 4. We say reverse is going to start now from 4 2 3 1. Just going to reverse the order of the list, and this will mostly be used. The reverse keyword is going to be used when we're actually doing sorting. That you can sort and then you sort either in ascending or in descending order. So list the sort is just going to sort out all of those values for you. Let's say we have this here. We have to pass list the sort is going to sort these values in ascending order. So we're going to have 1 2 3 4. So that's what list the sort we do. So so now here let's just finish. These are the last methods for the list. So this compare here, what this does is this is going to compare if these two lists are the same. It's going to compare them by their value. So it's going to compare if two lists are the same. Then the length, this is just going to give you the length of the list. It's going to tell you the number of elements that are stored in that list. So now based on your interpreter, this will actually give you the exact length of that list. Let's say you have 4 items. You have 4 items in the list. Based on your interpreter can return this thing. It can return 4.
So what are we saying?
You have 5 items. Remember, we start counting from 0 right up to
Why?
4. You count from 0 to 4 is going to give you five
The
items.
challenge is what
So
we're doing.
now,
Not
based
you.
on your interpreter,
You
some
actually
interpreters will return 4 as the length of that list, but some interpreters will return 5. Remember that now, based on the size of, or let's say size or the length of that
very
list,
hard economy.
you can see now what you can do. Maybe if you have 4 elements, you can see now how you start looping through those elements based on that value. Or the size is going to be very, very important. So now the max. So this is
Ah,
just going
this
to return
no
the
format.
this in the value in that list that has
It's
the
when
highest
you want
value.
man like
It's going to return the element. Sorry, it's going to return an element in the list that has the highest value. And what the main function will do is just going to do the opposite of the max function. It's going to return the item from the list with the minimum value and then list here. So now here, this is just the keyword list. So if you pass in list here, it's going to convert. So this is going to be handy to convert other data structures into a list, like converting a set into a list, converting a tuple into a list. We're
are
going
you
to
so
do
serious right now?
that later on.
I want to
So
see the
let's get into VS Code and see how we'll better understand all of these methods that we have mentioned here. But before, okay, Albright has her hand up. So, Albright, what is wrong? What's the issue?
So please, I have a question. For the
Okay,
list, for the list dot
I said,
extend
do
built-in
something.
method, can you use it and like you can use list dot extend to extend the list, and then you
Ah,
print
people not sharing
um
with me, yeah.
a new value that is on the extended part of the list, and you use an index number, like you continue the index numbers based on the extension that you have added.
yeah, yeah, that's possible.
Really?
Because when you actually
Tell
extend,
me
let me
how
see.
far.
Let me go back to the previous slide. Okay, let's go back to the previous slide. So here, let's say we have this list. This list is
No, we
having
don't
these values
necessarily
one,
extend
two,
though.
1, 2. So let's see 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last index here is 3. Then now if we use
Ah,
list dot
let's,
extend, we use list 1 dot
let's give time.
extend this list 2. See that list 2 is having two values. It's going to take these two
Yeah,
values
like,
here, which is 1
let's
and
give
5. It's
it
going to take one.
time
It's
lapse
going to take
and
that
it
1
will
and
they
5
don't get it.
and it's going to add it to that list 1. So it's going to take 1 and 5.
Yeah, Lucy has done it, so there's
So
no
as to do
time.
that, it's going to take 1 and 5 and add it to the end of this list. So when you add it now to the end of this list, you discover that the indexing of the list is going to increase. Since the size have increased, the indexes of that list is going to increase too. So this index now is going to increase right up. It's going to update from 3 to 5. That's why it's going to happen. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Remind
So
me.
let's go to VS Code now and
Wait.
have
So
some
literally,
fun
Lucy is
with
doing
some
the
code.
money.
So now,
Yeah.
sorry about that. So here are we now in VS Code. So let me go to the previous slide and let's see the methods that we're working on. So okay,
Please,
let's start by
please,
updating
since
values in the
they have
list.
knelt
Let's
down,
start
let me go
from
and
there.
attend to my beginners. Mr.
We
Judicious,
do not do that.
since the
So
winner will give that money to the winner.
let's start from there. So let's
Yeah,
work just with the number list for now.
certainly. I'll catch up with you people.
Let's
Bye.
work just with that for now. So now we have numbers and let's say we want to update let's make our number list to be 40 so that I can actually run an update on it to correct it. So let me print out numbers here. Numbers. So discover that if you print out numbers, we'll have 1, 2, 2, 4, 5, 6. So now here I want to update. You see that the element at index position 2 is having an issue. So now to run that update, we have to say numbers, we have to specify that index position 2, and we do this. Index position
But
2.
I can't see your screen. I don't know it's because of network or what. So can't see your screen.
Sorry, I did not switch the presentation to it.
We can see it.
Sorry about sorry about that. Okay, I did not switch to VS Code. Are you seeing it now?
Yes, sir. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. So now here, what I was saying is we have this list. Let me start back from here. We have this list, and when we run it, we have this issue on it. You see that we have 1, 2, 2, 4, 5, 6. So now we want to have 1 to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now you discover that we're having 2 is being duplicated. So the second 2 is taking the place of 3. So we want to update that. So for us to actually run an update on this list, we have to say numbers and we'll pass in that index of that value which is faulty, or passing the index of that value that wants to update. So when we pass that, now we have to run this. We have to assign it now to a new value and discover that if we print this out, you see we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is updating the elements in the list. Let me just comment that. Let me just set up that comment. Updating the elements in the list. And then now the second method that we saw was actually deleting the elements in the list. So let's go ahead and delete the last element. So for us to delete the last element, let's say 6 is stored at index position 5. So we can just run the del function. We'll call the del keyword and we'll pass in numbers, and we'll pass in a number. Now we have to pass in now the index. So we'll pass in the index of 5. It's actually going to delete that list. Is going to delete that element that deleted 6 from our list. So now discover this is the previous list which had elements right up to 6. So now we're having elements just from 1 right up to 5 because we have deleted 6. And then like I was saying, if we run the del method and we just pass just the name of this variable, remember that this list is still a variable. So if we pass this, call this del function, we just pass in this and we run that program, it's going to give us an error. Why? Numbers is not defined, and numbers is not being defined because we have deleted numbers here. So that is going to delete the entire, that's going to delete the whole list. So so with that, I just want to be commenting this out so that people can, let's say, deleting a single element, deleting this. Okay, it's in the slide, so I'll just make a send the slide. So let's do this now here since we have that in the slides already. So now we are now other methods like concatenation. So let's say we have this list and then let's say we have numbers 2. This is number, let's just call it numbers 1. This now has values from 7, 8 right up to 10. So we have to use now that method and that. Let's say numbers 3 now numbers 3 should be equal to numbers 1 plus numbers 2. So if we come now down here and we print out numbers 3, we discover that, let me clean my terminal. You discover that it have actually added the first list to the second list. It have added numbers 1 to number 2, and then now it has stored that in numbers 3. So this concatenation, it takes the first list and it concatenates it to the second list. So it adds the first list to the second list. That's what concatenation we do. Then now here, for the other one that we talk about, this thing repetition. Let's say we have names. Now for the repetition, just need to have this. Let's say name is equal to, let's have this as a list. Let's say Python. Let's just call that Python. Then if we multiply this by 4 and we come down here and we print out names, let's have names here. Names, sorry, not names. When we have that and we run, you discover that it have repeated Python 4 times. So that's what that will do. Then now for negative indexing that we're talking about. So for negative indexing, oh, So this is our list 3 here. So let's bring out the last element. So we have to bring out the last element. We pass in -1. You run this program, it's going to give us 10 because 10 is the last index. Let me comment this out. 10 is the element that stored at the last index. Then if we give in -2, it's going to return 9. So that's how negative indexing is going to work. Remember, as I said, when you're printing from the end of the list, let's say you want to start printing from the end of the list and you're coming towards the beginning of the list, you are dealing now with negative indexing. And with negative indexing, you start from -1. Then when you're printing from the start of the list, you start from 0 and you're going up, incrementing right up to the size of that list. So now with that negative indexing, yes. And then now when you're using this thing, slicing to fetch to bring out the value. So like we first said in the example of the slide, we had 1 here, we pass in the first index that you should start printing from. And then now when we don't pass in another value here, it means that it should print right up to the end of the list. And if we run this, it prints from 2. Remember that 2 is stored at index position 1 right up to the end of the list. Let me just copy this. Let's override this here so that people should see that very well. So this is our so it prints from this index to right up to the end of this here. So it's the same as we can actually come and pass in the stop value here. Let's say we want to print just elements from index position. Let's say we want to print the first 3 students here, the first 3 values. So it prints just 1 and 2. Remember that this slicing is the same like with the range function that I said. When you pass in the last value, that stop value is actually going to the actual stop value that pattern is going to stop. That pattern is going to range right up to is going to be 1 minus the value that you pass. So you want to print the first 3 values, meaning that I have to pass in 4 here. So you can actually print the first 3 values. You see now that when we pass in 4, 3, that time I passed in the 2. So when we pass in 3 here now, since we're counting from 0, it's going to print 1, 2, 2. Let me just update this. 3. So that's going to print out the first values that I have inside our list. Then it's the same. We can print it up to the fifth value. That's going to print right up to this. That prints right up to the fifth value. So now remember that when you don't pass in now a value here, that will print right up to the end of the list. Now it prints to the end of the list. So that's what we have. And then now you can start printing from the end of the list right down to, let me see, the start of the list. Let's see if this works. Returns us 0. Let me see. So it returns 1. Let me see. Print from the from start at the end of the list. So you don't print this one here. When you pass -1, it excludes the last element that is stored in that list. Let me see. And now I want to print from the last element. So returns 0. Let me see. So this prints from the last element. If you see it, I've reversed the list. I've started printing from the last element right down to the first element. So it's the same as that range function, that when you actually pass, you have to specify how it should print this. So now here what it does is it is decrementing the previous index by 1. It's the same as a range function. So it does the same. Let's say you had -1 here, and we see we're printing right up to index position 0. let's have that and say, yeah, it gives us the same stuff here. Remember now for our stop is going to have -1 there. That's why I'm not printed one. So we have -1 there now, and we run. Here we have to have a 1 so that you -1 will give us 0. Then you bring it up to the first element. I'm not having an issue. So to print to the first element, let's just allow that to be 0. So this to be empty, I mean. So this is going to print from the end of the list right down to the beginning of the list. It's going to reverse that. Hope this one is okay. Oh, my hand is up. Is it have a question or is from the last time? Okay, ask a question. Let's start with Chinda. Yes. Please ask a
Okay,
question.
sir. Please, sir, I have a question. Please, I don't understand why the last print statement that you just told us. Yes, sir, I don't understand it. Please, can you take it again?
Okay. I mean, okay, Oprah, ask your own question. Is it the same stuff or can have been up since?
I don't have a question.
Okay. So now for this last statement now here. So for this here. So what this statement is doing is this. Okay, normally when we're printing out this list, like when we did the normal operation, we said start from index position 0 right up to the end of the list. So when you have this and you print that, it's going to print from the first item to the end of the list. So now I wanted to print that but from the last item right down to the beginning of the list. I want to start from the end of the list to the beginning of the list. So now for us to do now that the last item is stored at index position -1. We have -1 here, you start printing from this 10 from 10, which is the last element I have in our list. We start printing from 10 here, the last element I have in our list. So now remember as I said that if you have when you use the column, it separates the values because here what this does is the same as the range function. The slice function is the same. It takes in three, yeah, you can take in three parameters. So let me just have this, let's just write this out here so you see. So the first parameter is the start, the second parameter is the stop, and the last parameter is the step. So now here, this is the format that we're using here. So now here, since we say the last element is stored at index position -1, so when we go to index position -1, that's the start. One that you start printing from index position -1. So now, and then now I want to print to 1, which is the first element. And you know the first element is stored at index position 0. So now let's just pass in the 0 here for the stop. Then now we just corner that here now we need to do this. Here we need to pass in now the step since we want to counteract the default behavior of the slice function, because the default behavior means here the step is always +1. That when it takes the previous index, it adds 1 to the previous index so you can get whole of the next index. So now here, since we want to start printing from the last index to the first index, we have to start decrementing. That's why I have -1 here, which is the step that decrements the previous value. Let's say here 10 is stored at index position 9. It decrements 9 by 1. That's 8. This is 9 minus 1 will give us 8, and then 8 when you pass in 8 now inside this function is going to give us 9, which is the next element. So if we execute this, it's going to give us this 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now, wait, have you understood right up to this point before I continue explaining other stuff?
Yes, sir, I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay. So now you discover that now here one is not being printed out. And remember that now for the stop, like we said in the in the range function and in the slicing function. With the stop, the way Python calculates the stop is it takes the value that you have passed in and it minus 1 to it. So 0 minus 1. That's 0 minus 1. Can that go? I don't know. Yeah, that can go. So 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So for negative 1 now, negative 1 now is this last index. Then when it takes now negative 1 minus 1 now, that gives us negative 2 and that will not go. So now here to print the from the end to the beginning, you just need to allow the stop to be empty. Python understand you have to print right up to the beginning of the list. So if we execute this now, it's going to give us it's going to give us a countdown from 10 right down to 1. Is that okay now?
Yes, sir. It's okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So now from there, let me see which method you have now. So now we have now the append method. So now for the append method, all you have to do is this. You just have to call that list. Let's remove this now here. You don't need it again. So for the append method, let's say we want to add 11 now to that list. We just need to say numbers 3 dot append 11. This will be very, very important. Take note of this method. When you're writing some programs, you will need to be adding values to the end of the list, which is very, very, very important. So take note of this method. We are going to make use of it a lot. Any program that you have to write that dealing with list, I'm sure you must append. You definitely need to append in most of the cases. So now you have to execute that program. We discover that we have 11 at the end of that list. So now let's just do the pop method since the pop will do the opposite of that. So let's have this here and then do numbers 3 dot pop. So if we run that now, we discover that it has removed 11 from that list. Append added 11 to the end of the list. Then pop came and removed 11 from the end of that list. Like if I comment this out here and run this code, we discover that we have 11 and 11 here. But when I execute this, pop will come and remove 11 from the end of the list. Then now this another method that we studied, which was the remove numbers 3 dot remove. We see now that with the remove now what it will do is this. It will say remove 10. It's going to go through this list and you will look for that element that has a value. You look for that index that has a value of this thing of 10, then it will delete it from that list. So when we execute this, we discover that 10 has been removed from this list. So that's it. And then now for clear, we use numbers. Let me just write this here. Numbers that clear. We do this numbers that clear. It's going to remove all the elements found in that list. You see here that clear function came and deleted all of the elements in this list. Then let's add 2 to this list, 2 3 times 2 again. So if we do here numbers that let me just to count here that count and we pass in 2, it's going to return a number of times that 2 is found inside this list. And where did I get executed? Okay, so here we have to print this out. Let me just have this printed out here. So that count. So if we print this out here now, it returns 3 because 2 is actually stored in this list 3 times. Yeah, 2 is stored in this list 3 times. Then now extend will just simply do what the previous concatenation did when we had that here. So let's say we have this numbers 3. Let's say let's just have that and then just print it out. Numbers 3 that extend numbers 1. Then we'll print that out. If you extend that, you see that here with none. Gives us none. Let me see. let's have that out here and then bring this here. Numbers 3 and we execute. You see now that here the numbers 3 ended from was running from 1 to 10. Then I see that with this extend now here it have added 7, 8, 9 and 10, which is coming from list 2. So that will simply do is similar to what they is in the concatenation will do. So that will give us that. Then for the index of when you pass in the index, you just return where that index is being stored. Like if you say numbers 3 dot index and then we'll pass in, let me see. Let's pass in 2. No, let's pass in 1. When we pass in 1 is going to the required output has to be 0. Now let's pass in 2. That 2 is stored in numerous positions in the list and see what it's going to give us. We're going to return the position of the first occurrence of 2. So here we see that 2 is occurring here 1, 2, 3. So is 2 has an occurrence of 3 in this list. So when you use the using the index, it's going to return the index of the first value of 2 that is being encountered in that list. Then now reverse. Let's see what the reverse function is going to do. That reverse. So now we use reverse method now. Let's see. Oh, some of these methods they require that we should write them out of the print statement. So reverse here. Then we come and print numbers 3. When we run that, you see that I've reversed the list. I actually reversed it. It has printed from the last element to the first element stored in that list, which is similar to what we did with that slice function. So now let's actually sort this list and see numbers 3 dot dot sort here dot sort and execute. Need to sort this out. Dot sort. When we sort this and we I'll bring this out here. You see that I have sorted this list. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 9, 10, 10. It actually sorted this list. And then now, like I was saying, there was a parameter that I'm passing here, reverse is equals to true. So now you discover that here is sorting in ascending order. So if we put reverse equals to true, it's going to sort now in descending order. You have 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8, yeah, right down to 1. So, and then now the length, let's just do this. We'll do list dot the length of that list, not list dot length. That's JavaScript. So we'll do length and then we pass in this here and we execute. It's going to print out 16. 16 is the length of this list. Let me see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this one returns the actual length of that list, but some interpreters they will return 17. So when you return 17, you have to take 17 minus 1. That will actually give you the actual size of that list. So now if you do that min dot max, just do that. You're just going to return the maximum number that is stored in that list. So the other methods will just work same. Yeah, the other methods will just work same and stuff like that. So now we are against time. We are against time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
against
any
time is a
issue,
bad one. Yeah, against time.
so it's not me.
It's
We
not
are
you.
against time. It's us.
Not us. It's you. Okay. Good evening again, everyone. I think you've treated most of the aspects concerning list. The things you've done are very important. The append, the pop, the sort, the reverse, all of those things. Those are very important functions within the list data type or data structure. And uh, please don't forget to send. Somebody is saying that please don't forget to send something because
Let me see, please.
the
Okay, the
slides.
slides. Yeah, I'll send them.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully, maybe the next class you are going to treat not only one of the data structures. We would like to actually speed up a little bit. Um, Maybe tuples and set you treat it in one session, and then dictionaries another. Lists are very important
Yes.
data structures in Python. I think there was need for emphasis on this one. So hopefully everybody has gotten some understanding of list. I will ask Patience
Yes, sir.
is did you get the concept behind list?
But I'll have to try it again.
Come
I
again.
can say I'm coming. I'll have to try it again.
Okay, sure. It's nice to try it again. Most of the data types we've been treating, if you've noticed, is just us assigning one value. Say integer, we have an integer for number, we assign it one value. We have a string, we assign it some value. But something like list, tuple, dictionary, sets, those are kind of advanced data types or advanced data structure where you can store more than one value inside. They are more inclined towards things like arrays for some of you who have done computations before. They are more likely like arrays. But these ones now, at least they have some specifications. You have lists, for example, which can store um, multiple items of different types. You can have a list of integers, you can have a list of strings, you can have a list of mixed. It can be integers and string in one list. And you've seen the various things you can do to a list. You can combine two lists together to form one. You can add an item to a list. You can remove an item to a list. Like Mr. Buffon was saying, the pop itself is a function that you can remove an item from a list. And the cool thing is, you can actually remove and return, right, Buffon? Say if you wanted to remove the last item of the list and use it, you can say list.pop, let's say last equal to list.pop, and it's actually going to return the last value that you removed, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So all of these methods, I would like you people to take a good look at it. Maybe we'll actually have to add a task again on this list. I'm sorry, but we'll have to bug you people a lot with task. If it gets overwhelming, you should put more effort, right? Josiane, true, right? Rose.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we are going to bug you people. You had some 1 week to do no task. I think this is a week where you have to do all the tasks that I did not do last week. So I'm going to add another something. Um, I hope you people have some basic knowledge of maths, something like being able to calculate the mean, the average, and so on. Because literally, an example that you can do here is to define some program that will take a list of numbers and then be able to calculate the mean, the standard deviation, the median, all of those things. You can do that. I think that's one task that we can add. It's more related towards statistics, which is part of data science. I really did not put so many of those tasks because we had not done this. So I'm going to either update some of the tasks or I'm going to add some new tasks. But hopefully, I guess you people are trying to understand where we are driving towards. When you do these advanced data structures right now or advanced data types, you are going to now get into functions. And then from functions, we can start talking about object-oriented programming or maybe error handling and all of those things. This is it the fourth week, Mr. Buffon? Is it fourth or third?
I'm not first keeping count, but I'm sure this should be the fourth week.
Okay, so this is 1 month gone. Maybe the next 2 weeks, we will try to wrap up with Python programming and then start getting into some concept of data science or data analysis at least. It's very important we get into something like that. Docas, is everything going well? I hope so.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Uh, Marilyn,
Hi.
yeah, is everything going well?
Everything is okay because
Okay,
I have already.
okay, happy to hear. Janice or Janice.
Yes, so everything is okay.
Okay, Megan, are you catching up?
Yes, sir. Yeah, everything's okay. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. Everything is okay.
Okay, and Aina or Aina, I'm sorry, I'll learn how to pronounce the name. Um, is everything okay, Aina?
Yes, I do. But just I think the video will be good just go through it. But I think I was getting a lot of it, apart from a few that I did not follow. But
Okay,
I already done a bit of JavaScript, so I understood some of the things he was saying.
okay.
I understood most of the concept he was talking about.
Okay, so Mr. Buffon, we will give 2 weeks for you to round up with some of these things. Then from there, nobody is going to come here and literally be over teaching. What we are going to be doing is now, I hope you people are comfortable sharing your code, sharing your screen, and all of that. I hope that's no problem because some days we'll do live code where somebody like Ojue will come and share her screen and we work on our code together. Another day, Rose will come and do it. I hope that's okay with people. Yes.
Yes, sir. It's okay.
Okay, cool. All right. I think I'll try to upload the recording today. I don't have electricity in my quarter. I don't know what happened, but I'll try to upload the code today. I mean the recording of today. I'll upload it to YouTube. Oh, wait. Somebody said I did not ask about. Wait. Rose, Rose, is everything okay?
So everything was okay until I saw the assignments today. Now I cannot breathe.
You cannot breathe. You
I
breathe.
cannot breathe.
You breathe. Do research, but please don't use AI to generate code. I don't I don't like that. Don't do it. So you will breathe. It's just three simple tasks now. Palindrome, checking a prime number, which other one converting from degree Celsius to Kelvin. They are just some basic things, just some small. I think it's after I've assigned a task of tomorrow that you will not be able to breathe, and then I'll give you some more oxygen. So, uh, damn. Oh, okay, yeah. Mm, sorry, I'm back. So yeah, like I was saying, yeah, it's after the task of tomorrow that somebody will not be able to breathe. Then I'll give you some more oxygen. And then, what was I to say again? So I have a challenge for you people. The first person to submit all the tasks that have been assigned. Let's talk about 2K for now. You assign when you if you submit it the first amongst the 15 of us or 20 of us, you have 2K. Rose.
Ah, so you've started
Yes,
to.
sir.
So don't do this thing that you're doing.
I should not do what? See now, okay. So this is the challenge that was for advanced people. Guess their challenge. The person that will pronounce the sound of a cat will get 5K. Imagine
You.
the sound of the cat. Yeah, like seriously. Buffon, you're not Mr. Buffon, you're not included. The first person to submit the three tasks that have been assigned to them, like I'm sure you were assigned at least three tasks, right? So the first person to submit all of them by the end of by Tuesday, no, by Wednesday, you are going to have 2K. Now, if that,
Lisa, for one of those tasks, the one we're supposed to be converting the temperature converter.
mhm.
I don't know if we're converting both from Celsius to was it Celsius to what? Celsius to Fahrenheit or and Fahrenheit to Kelvin. Like the user is supposed to enter temperature in any of these units and then will convert to the other.
Yeah, so literally the user is supposed to the program is supposed to ask the user what the user wants to convert to, right? So the conversion, do they want to convert from Kelvin to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Kelvin? So they have to choose. Okay, so you have to give those options. Then now based on the option, you ask the user now to input the temperature, and then the program goes ahead to convert based on the what the user wants.
Okay, so
Yeah. Yeah, Megan.
So please, I'm not seeing. I can't get the tax. I'm not seeing my the tax on the flash, but on the flash screen.
Did you join the track?
Yes, sir.
Uh, okay. Mr. Buffon, can you stop sharing a bit? Yes, patience.
I also have the same issue. I cannot access all the time.
Okay. Now, it might be because you people have not joined the track or something. Let me see what is wrong here. Uh, okay, girls. Have you also joined the track? Okay, let me try to share my screen a little. Hopefully, this will go. Let me know if you can see my screen though. So just indicate if you cannot see should I say if you cannot see a task for yourself. Let's start with patience. Patience, can you see, do you have task? Hello. Hello.